The morning Aunt Evelyn died I was up to my elbows in dirt planting the damn rose bushes she gave me for my birthday. Victoria Legacy, the tag said, some old fancy heirloom variety. She insisted I need it. They've survived 3 generations of Whitmore, she told me with a smirk, and now it's your turn, don't kill them. I didn't know it then, but it'd be the last time I saw her. My phone buzzed 3 times before I finally yanked off my gloves and answered, annoyed. Isabelle Hartley. The voice on the other end was formal, cold, like a lawyer calling to ruin your afternoon, which as it turned out he was. This is Charles Whitmore, your aunt's attorney. I'm afraid I have some difficult news. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. What happened? I asked, already knowing the answer. She passed away in her sleep last night. My knees hit the dirt before I realized I was falling. The damn rose bush scratched my hand. I didn't care. She left very specific instructions, he continued. You were to be contacted first before the rest of the family. That stopped me cold. First, not my father, her own brother, not her precious goddaughter from Manhattan. Me. I'm here, I said, my voice hoarse. What do I need to do? She left behind a letter. It's to be read at her funeral in front of the entire family. That was her only condition. If the letter is read aloud, the terms of her will go into effect, otherwise her estate is locked. I stared at the roses, Evelyn's last gift, a warning disguised as a plant. Let me guess, I said, wiping dirt off my palms. She left me everything. There was a pause. Yes, he said finally. Whitmore Holdings, the house, her personal investments, roughly $888 million in total. I let out a breath. I didn't know I was holding Jesus. But only, he said, if you read the letter, no exceptions. I looked back at the roses. Somehow they looked heavier now. I'll be there in an hour. Charles Whitmore's office looked exactly like the kind of place where secrets got locked away for decades. Dark wood leather chairs that probably cost more than my rent, and a skyline view that screamed old money. Evelyn would have hated it or loved it. With her it was hard to tell. He stood when I walked in like we were in some courtroom drama. Miss Hartley, thank you for coming so quickly. I didn't sit. Let's skip the pleasantries. You said she left me a letter. He nodded and opened a drawer. She left 2. Actually, this one is for you. He slid a smaller cream-colored envelope across the desk. My name was written on it in Evelyn's signature script, elegant and deliberate. Just seeing it made my stomach clench. And the second I asked, that one's still sealed, marked for public reading. You'll get it after this. I picked up the envelope, half expecting it to burn my fingers. Her perfume still lingered on the paper, roses and something faintly sweet, vanilla maybe. For a second I just held it, my thumb tracing her handwriting, then I opened it. Her voice came back to me in every word. My dearest Isabelle, if you're reading this, I'm gone, but don't be sad. I lived my life the way I wanted. That's more than most people can say. Now I need one final favor from you. At my funeral you will read another letter. It's in the hidden compartment of my jewelry box, the one I showed you how to open when you were 12. Remember the trick with the rose carving? Some will call this revenge. I call it justice, long overdue. The truth is I've left everything to you, the company, the house, the accounts, but only if you read that letter in front of the entire family. No shortcuts, no exceptions. I know it's a lot, but you've always been the one I trusted most, the one who never blinked when things got messy. That's why it has to be you. All my love, Evelyn. Peace. Don't let them bury me in beige. You know how I feel about beige. I read it again, then folded it slowly and slid it into my bag. My chest felt tight, not from the money, though. Jesus, that was a number I couldn't even wrap my head around, but from the weight of what she was asking me to do. She wanted me to blow up the family on purpose at her funeral. I looked up at Charles. She really left me everything. He handed me the official envelope this time. Whitmore Holdings, her estate, investment accounts, personal property estimated $88.4 million. I blinked. And the rest of them minimal gifts, some jewelry, a painting or 2, nothing close to controlling interest or real estate. So basically she left them crumbs and left me the bakery. He didn't smile. Only if you follow her instructions. I stood. Then I guess I need to go find a jewelry box. He reached into a side drawer and handed me a heavy black envelope. This is the second letter, still sealed. Do not open it until the funeral. I nodded, already halfway to the door, but he stopped me one last time. She asked me to tell you something, he said. She said Isabelle will know what to do with the truth. I didn't answer. I just walked out. The drive to Whitstone felt longer than it should have. The gates still opened with the code Evelyn gave me 5 years ago, same numbers as the date she bought the house. I remember because she made a whole toast about it the day I stopped asking permission to live on my own terms. She said she never looked back. The house hadn't changed, white columns, manicured hedges, and more roses than a damn wedding. I used to love this place when I was little. Now walking up the steps it felt like it was watching me. Mrs. Danner, the housekeeper, opened the door. Her face was red from crying. Miss Isabelle, I'm so sorry. I hugged her without thinking. I know she left a list, didn't she? She nodded, said you were to have full access to her bedroom, no one else. I went upstairs alone. Evelyn's room was just as I remembered, chaotic and elegant silk scarves thrown over lamps, framed magazine covers, art that looked like it belonged in a museum, and on the dresser the jewelry box, Brazilian rosewood carved with flowers. I dropped to my knees and ran my fingers along the edge until I found it, the small rose carving, third petal from the left. Click, a small panel slid open, revealing a thick envelope, heavier than expected, wax sealed, marked to be read at my funeral. I stared at it for a long time before sliding it into my bag. Whatever was inside it would change everything. Evelyn wasn't dramatic for nothing. If she said this would shake the foundation, it would, and I was the earthquake she picked to do it. 3 days later, I found myself standing in front of the mirror in Aunt Evelyn's bedroom, adjusting the navy blue suit she would have approved of, no beige in sight. I clipped one of her roses to my lapel, Victoria Legacy, blooming just in time like she planned it. The sealed letter sat heavy in my purse like a brick made of secrets. Outside, the front drive was already full, town cars, black SUVs, and way too many people in expensive shoes. The Whitmore name still carried in the city, and Evelyn, love her or hate her, had earned that. The service was held at St. Augustine's Cathedral, classic, elegant, dramatic enough for a woman who always made an entrance. The pews were packed, family, executives, old socialites with plastic faces, even a few journalists hanging near the back like vultures. I walked in through the side and felt eyes turn. My father was at the front with my cousins, looking like he wanted to melt into the floor. He hadn't called again since I hung up. I guess he figured whatever Evelyn had planned, it wasn't going to be good for him. He intercepted me near the second pew. "Isabelle," he said, voice low, "we need to talk before the circus starts." "No," I said, keeping my tone even. "We'll talk when everyone else hears what she wanted to say together. Whatever she left behind, we can handle it quietly. There's no need to embarrass the family." "Then maybe should have treated her better while she was alive." His eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what's at stake." I leaned in just enough for him to hear me clearly. "No, Dad, I understand exactly what's at stake, and so will everyone else." I brushed past him and took my seat. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from knowing the truth was about to blow a hole straight through the room. The service was beautiful in a staged kind of way. The priest spoke about Evelyn's philanthropy, her sharp mind, her leadership. No one mentioned the family fights, the lawsuits she buried, the way she could cut a person down with a single glance. But then again, those of us who knew her best wouldn't have wanted that version softened. When the last hymn ended, Charles Whitmore stood up and cleared his throat. "Before we conclude, Miss Isabelle Hartley has a few words as requested by the deceased." Requested? Yeah, that was one way to put it. I walked to the front, heels clicking on the marble, eyes following me like I was carrying a loaded weapon. Maybe I was. I took the letter out of my purse and held it up, the seal still unbroken. "This is a letter my aunt wrote before she died," I said, voice clear but firm. "She asked me to read it publicly in front of all of you. I'm honoring that wish now." My father shifted in his seat. My cousins looked like they were holding their breath. I broke the wax. The first thing that fell out was a photo. Evelyn in her 20s standing next to a tall man holding a set of blueprints. She was smiling like she'd just won a game nobody else knew she was playing. I held the photo up. "This man is Thomas Grayson," I said. "Most of you don't know him, but you should." I unfolded the letter and started reading. "My name was Evelyn Whitmore, and this is the truth about how Whitmore Holdings really began. In 1975, I co-founded this company with Thomas Grayson, a brilliant engineer and visionary. We were equal partners. Everything, patents, contracts, assets, was split 50-50 until the night he died in a car crash." A few people shifted uncomfortably. The air in the cathedral got noticeably heavier. "But it wasn't an accident," I continued. "The brake lines were cut, and just hours before his death, papers were filed transferring all of his shares to the Whitmore Family Trust, papers with a forged signature. My voice didn't waver. "The person who forged them, my uncle, my father, Richard Whitmore." Gasps, loud ones. Someone actually dropped their phone. My father shot to his feet, red-faced, shaking. "This is a lie," he said through clenched teeth. "She's twisting everything." "No, Dad," I said, meeting his eyes. "She kept the proof." I held up another document, photocopies of contracts, a forensic report on the forged signature, internal emails, even a buried police report. "She saved every shred of evidence, and now it's out just like she wanted." The room was chaos. Half the people were stunned, the other half looked like they'd seen this coming but never had the guts to admit it. My father stood frozen, jaw twitching, hands clenched. He looked around like he might find someone to bail him out. No one moved. "She carried your lie for 45 years, I said, "but not anymore." You could have heard a pin drop in that cathedral. After I finished reading for a solid 10 seconds, no one moved. "There's more," I said, holding up the final page of the letter, "and this part's not about me." I unfolded it slowly, carefully, like it might explode. "She wrote," I said, voice clear, "that she couldn't undo the past, but she could try to make it right. Thomas Grayson left behind more than ideas and blueprints. He left behind a daughter. There was a stir in the middle pews. A few heads turned. One woman stood. She was maybe late 30s, dressed in a dark green blazer, not flashy but sharp. Her hair was pulled back, face unreadable, but I knew the moment I saw her eyes. Same fire as the man in the photo, same quiet strength Evelyn had talked about. She's here, I said, not taking my eyes off her. Her name is Dr. Camille Grayson. All heads turned. My father's mouth actually fell open. Camille walked slowly down the aisle, calm as ever, not a hint of nerves, no hesitation. She stopped in front of the first pew, looked my father dead in the eye and said, "You stole everything from him and you let the world forget his name." My father couldn't speak. He just sat down like someone had cut the strings holding him up. I looked at Camille, nodded once, then read the last lines of Evelyn's letter. For years I followed Camille's life from a distance. I funded her education anonymously. I watched her build a career in sustainable engineering just like her father dreamed. She is everything he would have wanted her to be, and I won't let the Whitmores erase her too. I hereby leave 30% of my holding in Whitmore Industries to Dr. Camille Grayson as partial restitution. The controlling interest goes to Isabelle Hartley for having the spine to tell the truth when no one else would. It was done, no room left for interpretation. Evelyn hadn't just exposed the lie, she rewrote the ending. The crowd erupted again, people whispering, some clapping quietly, others already pulling out their phones like they were going to leak this before dessert. I didn't care, let it spread, let every corner of the city hear how the great Richard Whitmore built his empire on betrayal. I stepped down from the podium. Camille met me at the base of the steps. She watched me my whole life, didn't she? She asked, voice quiet, eyes shining but not crying. Even when I didn't know she existed, she never stopped. I said, she couldn't tell you the truth, not yet, but she made sure you had every chance. Camille looked toward my father again, then back at me. She carried his memory, you carried hers, and now we carry both. We shook hands, not for show, not for the press, just because it was right. After that I didn't stick around. I left the cathedral and walked straight into the sunlight like something in my chest had finally unlocked. Evelyn hadn't written a will, she'd written a reckoning, and I had delivered it. The reception back at Whitstone was nothing short of a pressure cooker. People didn't speak so much as hiss between clenched teeth. No one looked me in the eye for more than 2 seconds, and the ones who did gave that weird half smile that says, I'd better be careful with you now. Good, let them be careful. I didn't want food or wine or another fake condolence. I just wanted to know what Evelyn had known for decades, that the truth, when dropped in the middle of a well-decorated lie, blows the whole damn house up. I moved through the foyer, the parlor, the garden, nodding stiffly at people I hadn't seen in years. A few old board members from Whitmore Holdings patted my arm like I was a war widow. One leaned in and whispered, she chose right, you know, no one else would have had the guts. I wasn't flattered, I was tired, and I hadn't even seen my father yet. I found him in Evelyn's study alone, standing behind her desk like he still owned the place. His jacket was off, his tie was loose, his eyes were bloodshot. He didn't turn when I walked in. So he said, congratulations, you burned down your own family. I shut the door behind me. No, you did that 45 years ago. I just held up a mirror. He finally looked at me. The fire he usually carried in his face had turned into ash. Do you have any idea what you've done to the company, to the name? Do you even hear yourself? I snapped. You're more upset about the Whitmore than the fact that you ruined someone's life. Evelyn spent her entire life cleaning up your mess in silence. I'm done pretending that's noble. He laughed bitterly. She could have confronted me any time. She gave you chances and you spent every one of them pretending she was just bitter and dramatic. She built something out of the wreckage you left, and you resented her for that too. He dropped into the chair behind the desk like someone had cut the power to his legs. You know what the worst part is? I said, even now you're not sorry, you're just exposed. He didn't argue, he just rubbed his face and whispered, they're going to ask questions, the board, the press, Camille. They should. I cut in, you should have faced those questions years ago, but you didn't. You kept lying to everyone, including me. There was a long pause, then he looked up at me, eyes tired. What happens now? I stared at him. My father, the man who raised me on stories of legacy and reputation and pride. Turns out all of that was just stage dressing for a theft he never paid for. You step back, I said publicly, quietly, permanently. No press, no statement, no tantrums, you disappear. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I'll cover for you, I added. We'll keep the company stable. The focus will be on moving forward, not digging up more, but you stay out of it. And if I don't? I met his eyes. You won't win this one. I'm not Evelyn. I don't give second chances. I left him there, slumped, defeated, alone. Out in the main hall, my cousins were already forming factions, half of them furious, the other half trying to cozy up to me like none of this had ever happened. I ignored them all. Camille stood on the back terrace looking out at the garden. I joined her. They're going to spin this, she said. Try to say it was exaggerated, that Evelyn was just bitter, that you're power hungry. Let them, I said. We have the documents, the voice, the will. We have the truth, they have rumors. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. You okay? No, I said, but I will be. We stood there for a while, not needing to fill the silence, just letting it sit, letting everything Evelyn had unleashed settle into the bones of this house. She wanted this moment, Camille said eventually, not revenge, not chaos, just a clean break so something new could start. I nodded. Then let's make sure it does. 1 week after the funeral, the press got a hold of the story. I woke up to my face on the front page of 3 business sites and my inbox full of requests for interviews. They called it the Whitmore bombshell, catchy, sensational, exactly what Evelyn would have hated. I didn't give them anything, no statement, no soundbite, just silence. The truth already spoke for itself. Camille and I met in Evelyn's old office, now mine. She sat across from me with a folder full of engineering proposals and a half-drunk cup of black coffee. No ceremony, no small talk, just 2 women who had inherited a mess and decided not to drown in it. We're sitting on gold here, she said, tapping the papers. If we pivot the company toward clean infrastructure now, we can beat the market by 5 years. Do it, I said. You sure, Camille? The last people in charge built this company off lies. Let's build something that can survive the truth. She smiled, not wide, not dramatic, just a quiet, solid smile, like she knew we were on the same page, and we were. Later that afternoon, I walked the perimeter of the rose garden. Eve's damn Victoria legacies were blooming like they hadn't in years. I found myself talking to her out loud like she could hear me. You got what you wanted, I said. The truth came out. Richard's done, Camille's, and I'm here, and no one buried you in beige. The wind stirred the petals like a response. Maybe that was just my brain trying to give her one last word. The next few weeks were chaos: lawyers, board meetings, shareholder questions. My father went completely quiet. No press conference, no email, just disappeared into a health retreat in Vermont. I didn't care where he went as long as he stayed gone. Some of the family tried to reach out. My cousin Daniel sent a long passive-aggressive email about how I'd embarrassed everyone. I didn't reply. My Aunt Lydia left me a voicemail crying about how hard this has been for her. I blocked the number. You can't heal while still opening the door for people who kept cutting you, but some people surprised me. A former assistant of Evelyn sent me a note that read, "She never stopped protecting you even when no one else in the room did." And one of the junior analysts at the company came up to me after a meeting and whispered, "It's nice to have someone in charge who earned it." It meant something, maybe not everything, but something. 1 month later, I found a note tucked inside Evelyn's old calendar, dated the day she died, folded neatly, written in that same bold, looping handwriting I'd know anywhere. Isabelle, if you're reading this, then you did it. You carried the truth and didn't flinch. That's why I chose you, not because you're perfect, but because you don't scare easy. Don't let this company become what it was. Make it what it should have been, and don't let the family guilt you into forgetting who you are. They made their bed. The roses will bloom again next spring, so will you. Love, E. I didn't cry. I didn't sit down and reflect. I just folded the note and slid it into the top drawer of the desk. Then I looked out at the garden. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the stone walkway and the petals she left behind. There's something about carrying someone else's unfinished work. It doesn't make you a hero, it makes you responsible, and I could live with that. The truth Evelyn left behind was heavy, but it didn't crush me, it focused me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't someone's daughter. I wasn't the background character in someone else's legacy. I was the one holding the pen, and from here on out I'd be the one writing the story. Truth at a funeral, bold or too much. Hit 1 if you'd read that letter, 20 if you'd keep the peace, be honest, no judgment, well, maybe a little. In every successful family there's always a story no one dares to tell, but when the truth is buried long enough it finds a way to surface, sometimes even in the middle of a funeral. Isabelle Hartley's story isn't just about a massive inheritance or a secret buried for 45 years. It's a reminder that sometimes doing the right thing isn't about protecting the family name, it's about ending the silence that's hurt too many people. Isabelle stood up, faced her own father, and read a letter that shook the entire bloodline, not to destroy them but to start over. And when she returned justice to the one who had been erased, she also found freedom for herself, because in the end the truth doesn't just free the dead, it saves the living too if we're brave enough to speak it.